some nice groceries.
The premise of Distilled is this. You are a rough and tumble brewery owner who has just inherited the best brewery in town, or maybe the worst brewery in town, who knows? And you're going to start it with moonshine and a dream. Starting out over the course of 7 rounds, you are going to make the best spirits possible to put your distillery on the map, and hope that the spirits that you make actually turn out to be whiskey or brandy and don't just end up being some weird moonshine. This is Distilled, a spirited strategy game as you drink yourself into oblivion and hope that your alcohol actually tastes like something. So let's set it up. It's quite a lovely, lovely production with everyone getting their own little distillery board, their own little recipe label, which can change depending upon the game, the type of game that you want to be playing. Let's go with G for right now. As you try to purchase ingredients from the market and come out on top as the best distiller around. In true Eurogame fashion, you're going to pick a character who all will have a different special little mini ability, and will start with a variety of number of things, and who also will give you access to their signature recipes and their signature ingredients down the line to make one very special drink that only you know how to make. It's called Special Drink, and you know that it's delicious. The game will be played over a course of 7 rounds. Once this barrel hits number 7, you finish the end of the round, and then the person who has achieved the most points wins. Throughout the game, you're going to be tracking points over here on this little score tracker, and you are going to be brewing different types of spirits relative to the spirits that are available for occurrence. At the beginning of the game, you only know how to make moonshine and vodka, but as the game progresses, you can purchase the knowledge, you can purchase the recipes, and make sure that you can now make some aquavite. You can now make some labanog or gin. Let's make it gin because I can pronounce that. You can now make some delicious whiskey. Actually, this is a weird one because it doesn't have gold recipes. But just because you know the recipe doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to successfully make that thing. You might try to make that thing, but you also might fail in terms of making that thing. So the game proceeds in this structure. First, you'll have a general market phase where you can buy basic ingredients that you'll probably buy to start, and then you'll slowly get better ingredients as you go along to make your spirits even tastier and worth even more. Each card is sort of broken down in terms of the money that it will give you, the amount of points that it will give you, and the cost in terms of what it's worth. You also might choose to purchase an upgrade, one of these distillery upgrades. They might be equipment, they might be people, they might give you permanent abilities at the beginning of every round, or permanent abilities whenever you sell things. They're always good and can always benefit you, but of course they have a cost, and if you're spending money on your equipment, you aren't necessarily spending money on those premium ingredients. Or you could spend money on these premium items that we have here. We have some barrels, we have some bottles, we have some beautifully shaped pig bottles. Really stuff to make your liquor stand out on the shelf and contribute to points at the end, depending upon little set collection bonuses for the bottles as you purchase and upgrade your existing setup, which starts out with a metal barrel, a glass bottle, and a dream. You can make something in that metal barrel, but you're going to have to get nicer material if you want people to be purchasing your stuff later on. Now, once you've gone to the market phase, you've accumulated some stuff. You can only go and purchase 2 of these things because some of them are cheap or free. But let's say you've acquired a number of resources. Like this, you can then proceed to the mixing them all up phase, the sloshing them in a big old barrel and seeing what happens phase. And if you have a specific recipe, you can try to create that recipe, but you always will have access to creating moonshine or vodka to make sure that you at least will make something no matter what. How this process works is you'll combine all of your ingredients together. Each spirit requires you to have some water, some yeast, and some type of sugar. Here we have a grain sugar. You're gonna get to add alcohol into your mix for every single sugar you have, and then you're going to shuffle up your potion of alcoholic goodness and take the top and the bottom card out of the consideration. And here we've removed some alcohol and some water, and we are left with a beautiful rye and a yeasty sort of flavory thing. You're then going to take this and either brew something immediately. In this case, we could brew some vodka, get a little vodka tag to indicate that we brewed vodka and get an end of round bonus and score some money and some points based upon what it is. Or we could create some sochu as long as we meet certain requirements. Certain things must be brewed in certain pots or barrels to make sure that they're aged properly. And some of them also, instead of being sold immediately, might be put aside in your brewery to age, where you get these random flavor cards, which will build up in terms of points and be worth things at the end. This beautiful piney soju is what's going to pop out there, giving you an additional coin. Whatever the case, you will make something and you will get a bonus, which allows you to get free equipment, free ingredients, a cash infusion, so that you can repeat the process and try to make better and better spirits, which are worth more and more points. That's the overview of this game. And this game is one that is so incredibly thematic. This was the pick of the week way early on when I started my YouTube journey for the crowdfunding countdown series. And I think this delivers sort of in all of those aspects. It's incredibly thematic. I played this with a friend of mine over the summer who is a bartender and is really into making spirits and was so excited and was like, I'm just gonna make top shelf liquor, and ended up only making moonshine because he didn't prepare properly. And he loved it. It was his favorite game of the summer. He played 15 or so games in the summer and he ranked it #1 in our ranking video, which if you want to check that out, I'll link it maybe at the end of this video. But the theme of this game is so strong. This is a game that I saw when it was at PAX, or Origins actually, way back at Origins 2022, and it was one of the most impressive demos that I have seen, and it since has been gaining pretty decent accolades, having now been on Board Game Arena, where you can play it online, and for good reason, because the theming of this game really adds to the experience and the fun. Mechanically, at its heart, it's just a simple market phase, and then you have some randomization of, will I get the thing that I want? You can hedge your bets in a sense. You can put more sugar in your mix. For example, this soju requires you to have 1 grain sugar, but you could have 3 grain sugar in it, as long as the grain sugar stays in the mix. Now, if the grain sugar is removed and you are left with no types of sugars, well, that is where the sort of moonshine comes into play, and at least you get some sort of compensation, a slight boost in money to help you hopefully get something better down the line. And you get to keep all the ingredients that get taken out of your washback, essentially, in the distilling process. The theming is so strong in this game that if you look through the rule book, you'll often see these little notes, these tasting notes that just tell you things about making liquor. It says the washback is the container where the yeast, sugars, and water ferment before distillation. These giant barrels are sometimes over 20 feet deep. Right there, this has been clearly a labor of love, and it comes across in that way. And so if you have any desire or resonation with the theme carries this game a significant amount. But the actual process of the game is actually pretty fun as well. I really love that you are limited to only 3 upgrades, and getting those upgrades early and deciding to spend that money early is a real great decision. I really like how limited you are by the basic market. This stuff is cheap for a reason, because it gives you access to 2 things that you really need, and then you have to try to make the difference with these premium ingredients. I like that there's a little mini set collection game with bottles, and I really like that the game doesn't force you to age spirits or not. You can really go all in with a variety of different strategies, and it's all about playing the market. Now, with there being a market of cards, that also lends to some sort of randomness. The last game we played, we all were going heavy for brandy, which requires fruit sugars, the red cards, and no premium fruit sugars ever came up. Like they were at the bottom of the deck, and that just happens. But then when they did come up near the end of the game, we all were scrambling for them, and we all had to pivot and were trying to buy and bought out the fruit sugars from the basic market. There's a really nice solid back and forth that happens with this game, and it's one that like I think comes together in such a nice way. There are other things too that help elevate it and help make it different and varied each time, like these spirit awards, which the first person to complete one, or if you complete it on the same turn, the first turn at which they're completed, everybody gets these bumps of points. And so I went hard for those last time. Everybody gets these distiller goals, 3 of them, which after round 3, you discard one, again, giving you things to strive for and things to work towards that aren't just, okay, let's try to get a bunch of points, but there are things that you're actively racing towards. There are things that you will be fighting for in the common market, and timing out when that happens and when to make your purchases also matter. So all in all, it's a really, really solid production. I will say that if you are playing with new players, it will slow down a decent amount. I think this is a sort of game that if you're playing with people who knew it, it could clip along pretty quickly. I think it says 30 minutes per player on the box, and I believe that. With newer players and having to walk them through the washback process of shuffling up the cards, making sure they add enough alcohol to their distillation process, making sure that they shuffle and they draw correctly, right? It does sort of get bogged down a bit. And so we were playing this a little bit later at night with 3 new players, and it took a decent amount of time. It was 4 of us total, and it probably took us 3 or 4 hours just to get through it because the learning curve is decently steep. But once you get past that and you get a game under your belt, then I think you can really start to cook. And so it's just something to flag for those sort of learning curves, or if you're always playing with new players, just being mindful of that. But all in all, it's like a really nice production. I'm not even that mad about game trays insert too. I think there are some nice trays that make setup effective. These are great. You don't need all of these names of the liquor, but they're fun to put out. And then you just put out the ones that you're using on that particular recipe card. You put them out here, and then everybody just takes them and marks them. And that's important for sort of end game goals of checking what you made in the past, because some goals will be like, hey, who made the most gold spirit label? And check that at the end. Or who made the most spirits that were in the Americas region? You can check that at the end. It's not a great storage system for vertical space. These cards will flop out pretty consistently if you store your games vertically, but now I just kind of put some elastics on the ones that I don't want to get mixed up, and it works okay. This is one of those games where it feels like you can't do anything at all, and you're struggling and you're trying to spend money and you have no money whatsoever. And that's even more punishing if you decide to age a spirit, because then you don't get to sell a spirit on that turn. You essentially skip a round of income. But as you play the game, you start to find the ways at which you can earn money and then maximize that profit. Like there's some of these spirit labels which are like, hey, end a turn with $25. And that was the one that I had in the last game that we played. And before that, I was like, there is no way anyone could have that much money ever. Like, it's just insane. And so I made my whole goal for that round, or for that game, to get to that point. I also had another objective, which gave me more points for money, or having the most money at the end. And then having that focus and having like a few games under my belt, I realized like the potential of these strategies. I realized, okay, I don't need to age my spirits. I want to keep selling things. I want to keep investing that. I want to keep buying those premium ingredients. And so being able to pursue either avenue of strategy is a really exciting one. I also love the aspect of the flavor cards, that the longer you wait, the bigger the payout is going to be. And you can have a little bit of that randomness element. It's just a really solid production with just the right amount of limitations and a really nice amount of variability. Games like this, I always want to have more upgrades, right? I want to have more variability. I want to have all those things. But I think this hits it really well just right off the bat. It's by Paverson Games, and it's their first game that they made. They also just did Luthier on Kickstarter, which hasn't yet hit shelves. But with this like first showing, they've really set themselves up as a company to watch. I'm really impressed with a lot of this production, and really impressed at how sort of synergistic the mechanics work with the theme. And also in the back end, they had some delivery issues, but they worked them out. They had commissioned a company to deliver that then went bankrupt. And so they had to pivot and get another company. And seeing it all go down and seeing it all work out was just really, really nice. I'm super, super thrilled that I got a copy of this game. This wasn't sent to me by Paverson Games. It was in a sense, but it's really thanks to Devin Norris that I have this copy of the game, because Devin had done a review of it back when Devin was doing a bunch of reviews, and they were going to send him a copy as a thank you for doing the review. And he said, oh no, I already backed it. I already pledged for it because I liked it that much. So send it to my good friend, Chris George. And I'm really thrilled. So thanks, Devin, for sending this my way and hooking me up with this copy. And I didn't really feel like I had any review obligation, but I wanted to do a review about it because I think it's a really solid production, a game that people should take note of. This is the game that my friend Matt said, okay, yeah, I'm going out and I'm immediately buying this. Like, it hits with my interests. It's so, like, was so satisfying to him. And I was so excited to have this game to show that off, right? Well, honestly, between this and viticulture, I think all of your alcohol creating needs are covered in two really solid games. I think if you don't like markets or shopping, games where you have to shop, or games where you may run out of money and you want to keep on shopping, then this game might be a little tenuous for you. But the things that I can say about this game is just that there's been so much care and thought put into it. Even the process of shuffling your cards and drawing from the top and the bottom, rather than taking the top two cards, I think that's a little mechanical hint, a little rules hint to help people who aren't good shufflers, you know, whose cards stick together. And so by shuffling them and then taking the top and the bottom, you have a chance of getting two different things. And so even in that, like, it's a random thing. It's basically draw two cards from your deck. But in that randomness, there is sort of a design and a care and a consideration. And it's that level of thought that I think was put into so much of this game. I even like looking at the cards and seeing the cost versus what it gets you. The math, the formula seems fairly obvious. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think you see the payoff. I think you see that it's been worked out. I think you see that it's been considered. And in a game about managing your economy and trying to convert your economy into points, which is essentially what this is, I think all in all, it's just a really nice, lovely production that I have enjoyed more on each play as I see the little nuances of the game. Oh, whoa! And see the differences of the recipes. I've never played with this. I'm just noticed now. I've never played with this recipe card H, but every single one of these recipes is aged. So you're going to have to age things, which means you're going to have to buy these clay barrels and these wooden barrels if you want to capitalize on any points. Wow, this is an exciting one. This is an exciting recipe to play. And then if you look on the back of this one, nothing is aged except for whiskey. It gives you one chance at aging, but otherwise there's no aging that happens. And so it really sort of shifts up how you play the game in terms of the variability with these recipe cards. That's so cool. Yeah, I haven't played with this particular recipe card yet, and I just noticed that. And I think I'm going to play with this the next time I play and see what the implications of that, and see like how getting the easier to age ones out there first off and finding that balance of aging, or maybe you just make a really huge, plentiful vodka, you know? Maybe you spend your money and time on your vodka because you need a cash infusion, and then you go into your aging because after you've bought the really good, the barrels that you need to accomplish your tasks. Cool, yeah. So you can see. I hope you can see from that, like, that discovery and that delight, that there's so many nuances to this game, and I think it's just a really good production and really recommend it. Especially if the theme appeals to you, I would recommend it. I like the concept of making whiskey, and I think that has definitely been a draw for me. And that's the people who I've tried to introduce this game to as well. But even if you're not a fan of the theme, if the idea of that market and managing that market attracts you, then I'd say check it out. As for a rating, I think this is a really excellent production, an excellent meld of theme and mechanisms. And because of that, I'm going to give it 4.5 out of 5. So that I can give it my seal of excellence. Yeah, I really just think that it's a top shelf sort of game, and really thrilled that I have a copy, and that's not going or leaving my collection anytime soon. So, if you're interested in Distilled, hopefully this helps make up your mind. I'm definitely pretty positive on it, and I hope if you get it, you love it. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. My name is Chris George. I don't have a catchphrase, but I do have a great desire to have a drink with you, or just have a drink in general. Oh no. Has this game made me an alcoholic? I don't know. Maybe I should switch to wine. Valpolicella. Yeah, that's the only downside is you can't make wine. You can't stick wine in a big old barrel here. But you can make grappa, which doesn't taste like wine at all, but I don't know what to tell you. Now I'm rambling. I've already signed off. Get out of here. God, I should have been drinking whiskey for this. What a missed opportunity.